everybody, and welcome to episode 1 of the Brony Bookclub, the brand new podcast all about fan fiction. Specifically, My Little Pony Friendship is Magic fan fiction, though we will on occasion talk about other fandoms as well. With me today is my guest, Moonshooter.
What's up?
He is the author of a awesome fic called Sweetie's Mansion. I'll be talking a little bit about it today. Before we start, we are going to answer a couple questions. He'll be answering more than I do, because some of them don't apply to me. The first one is, what tag do you see on a fanfic that makes you want to read it? Why don't you answer this first?
Well, when I think of tags, I usually think of dark and adventure, mostly because they just seem to be interesting. They seem to commonly have the more interesting, more intricate storylines. The only other one that might interest me is romance every now and again, because sometimes they come up with pretty good romance stories sometimes.
For me, it has got to be comedy. The second I see comedy as a tag, I'm immediately like, okay, now I have to really check the summary. Because, there's some summaries that afterwards you go, no, that maybe not. But almost always I'll read a comedy fic. I'll at least put in my bookmarks to read later. I just love comedy fanfics, and I can't wait for the time we can get a writer on here who writes comedy fanfics, so I can actually just talk about all my favorites. What tag makes it so you will probably never read it?
There really isn't anything that I wouldn't read, but there are things that I would be definitely hesitant to read, such as alternate universe and human, because whenever I think of alternate universe, for some reason the first thing that comes into my head is a bad crossover fic. And now I know that it's not crossover if it's alternate universe, but whenever I see alternate universe, I see ponies from the show only playing roles in a already existing universe. And human, it usually seems kind of generic. Sometimes there is a good human in Equestria fic, but commonly it doesn't seem like there are that many out there.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I think I've only read one, and and it's also a crossover, and the author of that will hopefully be the guest next week. For me, it's Grimdark. I just hate Grimdark. I don't know why. And it's not just ponies. It's not just like, I know some people only don't like Grimdark if it's a pony fic, like if it's anything else they'll read it, but the idea of something this cute and lovable being turned to, Warhammer 40k levels of horribleness. But for me, it's anything. Like, I just don't like something that dark with, no rays of hope at all. It just destroys me. Though I haven't read that many, honestly, and the only one I've fully read is one with a one-word title that every Brony knows by heart that we're not mentioning by name on this show, because unless I could actually get the author on here sometime, because that'd be hilarious. Mostly just because I could chew him out. But, whatever. How did you get the idea for your story?
How did I get the idea for my story? Well, really here's how it happened. I was just trying to think of something to write for a fanfic. I was trying to think of how I could give something to the Brony community. So anyway, I was just searching online, Googling, and then I just came across Luigi's Mansion. I said, oh yeah, I remember that thing. And then I decided, well, why not try to create a fanfic out of that crossover? It seemed like an easy enough task. So all it came to was just deciding the character. At first, now the funny thing is, even though I've been told Fluttershy should have been taking Luigi's place, for some reason I just chose Sweetie Belle. Maybe it was because of how I was trying to find if Luigi rhymed with Sweetie. I don't know what came up with.
I think it was a good choice. I mean, I think Fluttershy would have been interesting, but Sweetie Belle is my favorite of the Keyboard Crusaders, and this pretty much cemented that idea in my head, because in your fic, she's just awesome.
Yeah. And I just wanted to try to, at first it was just going to be the Sweetie running through a mansion, but then I decided, why not flesh out the story? So that's how that became more fleshed out.
Flesh out the story you did. Wow. What is your favorite aspect of your own story?
I suppose I'd have to say Sweetie Belle's growth. I mean, people have said that they noticed Sweetie Belle growing, and it's something that seemed almost automatic. Even I didn't even notice until I started looking at it myself. It was like Sweetie Belle is actually growing a little bit, so and that's something I kind of found pretty cool.
Interesting. What advice you have for any pony out there listening who wants to write their own fan fiction?
Well, the first thing I found is the thing about writer's block is something that you shouldn't try to fight. It's something that really like when writer's block comes to you when you're writing a fic, um, you should just let it pass. It's just because it always comes and goes. You should just because ideas will come to you no matter what, and you should and fighting writer's block is not healthy. It just it just isn't. And the other thing I found is I find it is really a good idea to Google things that you are trying to learn about for your story. Like if you want to try to learn about I'm trying to think of an example. Oh, I don't know. If you are not completely sure about an aspect of My Little Pony or or a feature in your story or anything, not if you're not 100% sure, do not be shy to Google it. It's always good to Google, and that's really all I can think of for now.
All right, very good. And the last of the questions: who are your favorite professional authors, and how do they affect your writing?
Wait, now does this include fanfic writers, or is this only like published writers?
I'm thinking about published writers when I wrote
All
the
right.
question.
Well, the only person that I can really think of that has really influenced me is somebody that I'm not even sure if he's created any more books yet, but it was somebody named Lemony Snicket.
Oh,
Of
I love Lemony Snicket.
Yeah, he was like my favorite author for like ever, and he's like still my favorite author, even though I haven't read anything from him like in like forever. But he is really influenced my writing. His sense of mystery, his sense of his writing style, all of it has kind of influenced me in one way or another.
It's really funny you mentioned him because recently I just realized man, I miss that book series of Unfortunate Events. I really miss it, and so I've been trying to get back into it, get more, because it's such an interesting universe. For me, I have two favorite authors, and they're Jim Butcher, who writes the Dresden Files, and he also wrote the Codex Alera, which isn't as good, but it's also a really good series. And my other favorite author is someone I'm willing to bet no one has heard of, Nagaro Tonigawa. I think that's how you pronounce his name. But you've probably heard what he's written. He wrote The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. Well, he wrote the books, and then they made an anime out of it that is insanely popular on the internet. I love the anime. That's how I got into it. But I have all 6 books that have come out over here in America. I'm waiting for each next one that comes out. I'm a huge fan, and the thing you notice about both these series that are my favorites is that they're both first person. And I really love first person because I love main characters. I love getting in their heads. They're both just so focused on the characters, and I love great characters and stuff. All right, first let's kind of discuss dark fics a little bit because it's the week's theme. How do you generally feel about dark fics?
It really varies. I mean, I generally I do actually like dark fics. I mean, there are some that just kind of overdo it. Sometimes I even find one or two funny, but dark fics are I always thought they were really good. As long as they had like a good sense of story, good sense of detail of everything around them, as long as it was good in that sense.
When I chose you as the person I was trying to find out what tags Sweetie's Mansion has. I realized that really the best tag for it is dark, and I was frustrated because mostly I don't really read dark fics because for me, when I read a lot of them, I feel it doesn't feel organic. Which is you're one of the big exceptions. In yours, it feels organic that it's reached this place, it's reached this level, that things this terrible are happening. But a lot of them, it doesn't. It's like, oh yeah, it's an average day in Ponyville, and then horrible stuff is happening. It makes no sense. But since I had to read some stuff for this podcast, I found a couple others that I really like, and I guess for me, it just has to feel organic. You can't just take the show and go, now it's dark. You have to go, all right, there is a reason for why the mood has completely changed. You have to give me something, or else it feels really forced, and I really don't like it.
It needs to have a little bit of graduation up to that point where it becomes dark.
Yeah. All right, now we get to discuss Sweetie's Mansion, which I think is probably my favorite ponyfic that is currently updating, because I love Luigi's Mansion. It's probably one of my favorite GameCube games. Grew up with it, and I also just the way you took it, and like you said, you fleshed out the story, and I'm kind of amazed how much you fleshed out the story. It's a rare occurrence for me to be reading a fanfic and go, I have honestly no clue where this story is going to go, because I have absolutely no idea what the secret is behind. Oh man, I can't remember his name now. The guy who's the head of the goat. Yeah, I have no idea what his backstory is. Like, you keep alluding to these things. I'm like, I can't connect the dots. And that at end of chapter where you revealed the connection to Discord, I literally just went, oh my god, what the hell? I just freaked out at my laptop because I was like, I did not see that coming. That was amazing. I guess. Oh, the other thing I wanted to talk about is another reason is just you've been able to affect my emotions so much with this thing. I think two basic examples are Ghost Pinkie Pie is frightening as hell. Easily the most frightening of the ghosts for me. I mean, Jesus Christ. It took so long to capture her, and the entire time it was like she's completely in control. There's nothing you can do to stop her, and she will kill everyone. I was just scared the entire time reading about her. Especially the whole fourth wall breaking. I like what you did with that, how her pinky sense is that she's using the breaking the fourth wall so she could never be captured.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was very clever. Another thing is, I think either one or two chapters ago, the one where they break up the wedding, when I was reading that, the entire time, I was just freaking out because I was going, you better not make Rarity not a ghost, or make her not brainwashed, because I really love Rarity, and I was like, you can't do this to my character, you can't, and you really kept it in suspense for so long, and you kept driving up the tension to, how horrible can she be, and if you hadn't have had it turn out the way you did, I probably would have just, this podcast would have been you picking up and me screaming at you, because I was just so, it was so amazing how you did that, and it's really working up, and I'm always in suspense. I think you did a great job with it.
Well, thank you. But yeah, when I was trying to think, but like you said, I do actually like to have the suspense going, but also I like to keep a coherent story, because it's like, I'm trying to think.
The plot to Luigi's Mansion is not Shakespeare.
Okay.
And you've made it really involving and really interesting with all these layers and stuff. I'm like, wow, this is actually really well thought out. There's so much backstory here. All the characters, their motivations and actions make a lot more sense. You really did good on it.
Yeah, when I was coming up with the storyline, I didn't want to have it like Sweetie going around just catching ghosts, because when I thought about it, that sounded kind of boring. Just going into a mansion and saying, oh, you have to go catch all your friends and then just leave. No, that seems like that seems kind of generic. Seems kind of slow. Seems kind of quick. And I'm going to admit that's kind of almost what I thought when I was going to do when I started this, but then you start getting ideas, and then it just starts, and just goes off from there, and eventually just come to an actual storyline. So, yeah.
The next thing is we talk about either new ponyfics or updates to older ones.
Okay.
So have you read anything that just came out recently, or have you read anything that, something that's ongoing just got updated?
Let me think. I'm trying to think of something that I have actually recently read. Can't really think of anything dark that I've actually read like in recent memory. But what's something I do remember that was dark that I really did like, and something that partially influenced my writing was Silent Ponyville. Um, that. I mean, I know that's not really getting updated that much. At least I don't think it's been updated past chapter 5 quite yet. But
I haven't
yeah,
read
that's.
that.
Hmm?
I don't think I've read that. Yeah, I definitely haven't.
That one's a really good. That one's a really good fic. I think it's in like Silent Ponyville 3 by now. But anyway, um, it did something similar to what I did with the taking of a story and creating a entirely different story with it, but using similar um aspects from the original thing that it's crossing over from. Such as it takes a radio, turns into a phonograph. It takes a flashlight, turns into a lantern. It takes the entire town and turns it into thinking by its own little personal nightmare. But basically, like you said, it feels for the most part, or it feels more for the most part organic, and that's kind of what's important for a good crossover, I suppose.
The thing that I've read, I haven't actually read anything very recently that would fit for the show, but something did get updated. Another one of my favorites, My Little Chrono Triggers Are Magic,
Hmm.
which I absolutely love that one. It's, the title didn't give it away, it's a crossover with Chrono Trigger, which, in my opinion, which is very, what's the word for it, not to be taken seriously, I'd probably say Chrono Trigger is in sheer quality maybe the best game ever made. Just how much effort and how good a game it is. And they just took that and just went. It's funny because earlier you mentioned a lot of crossovers just take the characters of the show and just have them act out something else's story. And they've kind of done that, but they've also fleshed out the original story a little bit more. And the changes they've made have been really interesting, and I've really been enjoying it. It's definitely almost the opposite of yours in that I know exactly where it's going pretty much. Like, I've been able to call, like, all right, so this character's going to be this character, and this is going to be this. But I'm still excited for everything just because the way they've adjusted for the characters' personalities is really interesting.
Hmm.
So, Pav Fiera wrote that and is writing that, and good on him. The writing is very good on that one.
Hmm.
Let's see here, show notes. Oh yeah, now we talk about something that fits the theme, something we've read that is, I mean, the word classic is probably not a good word, but just something that is a dark fic that you can point to and go, that is something that you've heard of, and that you can read and go, wow, that's pretty awesome. Or, not. You could just bag on someone, I guess.
Something that is a dark fic. Let me think. Wait, you mean like a fic or a novel?
A fic.
Oh, Rainbow Factory.
Oh, no, that's Grimdark.
Oh, that's Grimdark. Okay, that doesn't count.
That does not count.
Okay, all right. Give me a minute. I think I can think of something. Um, uh,
While you're thinking, I'll go have mine, which is A World Without Rainbows, which I was dreading reading for this because I've heard of it so much. Like, it's this fic that I keep hearing, and I originally saw the description when I was just joining the fandom, and I said, that looks like the most depressing, heartbreaking description I've ever read. I'm not reading that. And then I actually said, I was like, okay, I'm doing a podcast. I need to read a dark fic. So why don't I read what is considered by a lot, one of the best dark fics of the fandom? And I did, and I realized the description kind of lies, or it sells it short, I think. And that's that the description A World Without Rainbows gives is that A World Without Rainbows, it's like a tongue twister. It's about a universe where Rainbow Dash had failed in her Sonic Rainbow back when everyone got their cutie marks. So in this alternate universe, none of them got their cutie marks like that. And the description just says Twilight wakes up in this world because of that change, it's an eternal night because they didn't stop Nightmare Moon. And I read that and went immediately was like, so the world, like someone changed history and this is the new world. Actually, it's not that. It's that there's two different universes and there's a lot of jumping back and forth between them and cells between themselves. And it's really interesting from that. And it is really dark. But like yours, it does feel organic because there's this world where all of this horrible stuff happened. Of course it's dark. I mean, Nightmare Moon is ruling Equestria, but it's really, really interesting. Though some early stuff didn't get me to like, almost made me stop reading from. I was like, nope, that's just too dark. You can't do that. I'm sorry, but I had to keep reading. For people who've read it, I just say this: Fluttershy in the Moonside universe. When you find out what happens to her, I just did not. I wanted to close the window because I was like, that cannot happen to Fluttershy. I'm too sad now. Only thing I'd say against it really is, and it's less of, it's not really a choice that's a bad thing, it's just a personal thing of me, and I don't really understand, is they made Trixie Twilight's sister. And apparently this is somewhat common in fanfics, but I really have no idea where this comes from. I have no idea. Like, why? It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, it's something that's kind of like some people were going on about Octavia being peeved by his sister or something. I don't know.
See, that one I can understand though, is because the only scene Octavia's had in canon, she had at a place where Pinkie Pie was being ridiculous, and there's a part Pinkie Pie keeps bothering her, and the expression on Octavia's face is kind of like, oh my god, not again. Like, it just seems like she's dealt with her before and is not even close to being shocked by it. She's just tired of it. And so most people are like, well, they're both Earth ponies, and she has that kind of reaction to Pinkie Pie, and Pinkie Pie is specifically picking on her. So they're like, all right, it would make sense that they're. I've seen sisters a couple times, but I've more often seen that they're cousins, and or they're like distantly related, which I think works. I've seen it work pretty well. But with Trixie, it makes no sense to me. It's like, I don't see, like, at least I can understand the much, for me, worse thing of having Trixie show up and then apologize and then they become lovers. At least I can understand that because you want to get them together and this is the best way. That makes sense. But when you just go, oh, they're sisters, it's like, so why did Twilight not recognize her? And why does Trixie not recognize Twilight? And how is this supposed to make any goddamn sense? It's just weird. And it's like a casual thing in the fic. Like, it's just like, with Twilight, it's like, oh yeah, she has your brother's shining armor, and then your sister is Trixie, and it's like, wait, what? Like, you just gonna drop that on us out of nowhere? It's kind of weird. So have your thoughts brought you anywhere?
What about the cough? I believe that I don't think that counts as grimdark, but basically, yeah, if it's anything, it's definitely dark. Basically, it's a bleak world. It's like supposedly there's some kind of disease going on outside where if anybody coughs you, they're infected or something. I don't know, some zombie stuff. Anyway, but now by the end of the sad thing about it is by the end of the fic, Fluttershy is the one has to be gotten rid of because she claims that she coughed and she is infected.
What's it
called? The cough.
What's it called?
The cough.
The cough. Wow.
In the darkness, some pony coughed. Yeah. And I suppose it could reach tragedy and sad territory. But if it's anything, the bleak situation, it's definitely dark. The way I see it, it will probably definitely be dark.
And then I guess the last thing for tonight would be that we talk about a non-pony fic that fits the theme, a fanfic from another fandom fits the dark tag.
I didn't really read that many non-pony related fanfics actually. The only one that I've read, and this was just over women out of curiosity, was My Immortal. That's the only thing that's the only one that I read out of curiosity.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a way to break away from the pony fix with My Immortal. Good job. It's like, man, at least our thing that we all think is terrible and know by name in our fandom, at least it's written well. Okay, I guess it's up to me then. I'll just say mine, which is, oddly enough, Bringing Out the Blue. It's a Avatar The Last Airbender fanfic. It has a really interesting idea. It's an alternate, kind of alternate. It's like, it's alternate universe in that one little thing changes, and then it diverges from there. And the idea is that in the episode The Blue Spirit in Season 1, when they shot the arrow at Zuko, instead of hitting him in the face and knocking him out, they shot him in the arm, and he started, like, really bleeding. So they got away, and he didn't blow his cover because of that. So he's thinking to himself, well, I can use this. I can infiltrate their group. I can play on their sympathies. And he starts building up this character of Blue to integrate with them. But as he does, his preconceptions about the world keep getting smashed. And it doesn't go in the directions you think it would. It keeps switching. And it's currently midway through Season 2. Or more like early in Season 2. It actually hasn't updated in a while, which pisses me off. Oh yeah, it's by Maguina 1. And it is really good, and I really enjoy it. And I think my favorite thing is that they really put you in Zuko's mindset. And it's actually made me really actually enjoy his character. Where before I'm like, yeah, Zuko, yeah, he's alright. You know, he's a main-ish character. He's kind of cool. It's like, I don't understand some of the stuff. Now I'm like, okay, wow. Like the mindset they give him in this, I was able to just go, wow. He's almost like I can see myself being like that under different certain situations. Like the way he acts is just completely makes sense to me, and it's so interesting. All the struggles he goes through, and it's really well done. It's definitely dark. But it's very good. I really enjoy it.
Okay.
Now before we log off for tonight, there's the matter of emails, which we don't have any, obviously, because it's the first episode. But the idea is, if you've listened to this and you're like, hey, I want to help out, if you send us a question, comment, anything, just send it to thebronybookclub@yahoo.com. And the other thing would be, because I'm asking for emails, you're probably like, well, how am I going, I can't ask the new author a question if I don't know who he is. Well, if things go according to plan, the author for next week will be the Psychic Scuba Diver, author of the Dresden Fillies, both Strange Friends and False Masks, and he also wrote Order and Chaos, which has been featured on Equestria Daily. But we're going to be mostly talking about the Dresden Fillies. And the theme for next week, if you want to write in about that, will be crossovers where the two series are intact and collide. So both series are technically in canon, and they just happen to exist somewhere in the same universe. Which is very different from what me and you've described recently, where it's like, oh, I'm just taking one series and I'm acting out with characters from another. That's completely different. So, send the emails in. I think it's been an alright first show. Thank you for being my guest this week, Moonshooter. You've been a blast.
No problem.
Right? Later, everybody.
Bye.